Sometimes you want to go back to when nobody knew your name. But they're sure glad that you came. You want to be where you can't be seen. Your troubles were all the same. You want to be where nobody knows your name.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 67 of the Secondary Heroes podcast. This week, we talk about famous actors and their super humble beginnings to even be uncredited roles. This is your host, Trevor, and joining me as usual is...
Hey, guys, it's Prague.
This is Josh.
Everybody should listen to Hold On by Wilson Phillips because it's 30 years old this week. This is DeLorean Wolfgang.
Oh, that's old.
Wow, deep cuts.
Oh, Wilson Phillips, what a good song.
Yeah,
and I'm being Wilson dead Phillips serious. Okay. That is a banger from Wilson Phillips, and it was hitting the charts 30 years ago. And it's still
when you
good
said
today.
30 years, I thought that was 1980. It's 1990.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that crazy to think? 1980 and 1990? 1980 still feels like 30 years, for sure.
I guess we're all getting old. Finally.
Oh.
It's the Prague infection.
Oh
my
no.
God.
We're all being infected by Prague.
Right? Well, speaking of 1990, during my research for tonight's topic, I realized a lot of the actors that we're going to talk about today kind of started off in like that 1990 time period, like right in the late 80s, early 90s. A lot of people got their start back then.
Well, and these are the superstars
roles.
Today.
Yeah.
The big superstars today.
There's kind of like a nexus of talent that started around that time period. So good choice there on that little reference, Alex.
Oh.
The 30-year-old reference.
Well then, I'll just pat myself on the back. Hey, for video people, yeah. There you go.
I can see that.
Myself. Hey, before we jump into this, follow us over on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and YouTube, all at the Secondary Heroes. And if you haven't already, please rate and review our podcast over on iTunes, because all this is free for you. It's priceless to us. Yeah. And we're not begging for your money on Patreon yet, so
do
that fun stuff.
We'll be ready.
We're still uncredited actors.
Get those wallets ready.
Get those PayPals ready.
Yeah, so we thought it'd be fun today to kind of talk about these celebrities that we know and love and where they began. You know, a lot of them started off in uncredited roles on TV shows, commercials.
Those are the most fun ones.
Yeah, but it's kind of fun to look back at stuff and see where they began, because I think that maybe some of our listeners don't know where some of their favorite actors started off. I know I have had times where I'll watch a movie and then many years later I'll watch like a TV show and be like, wait a second, that guy looks familiar. Oh, I think he was that person in that movie. And you'll rewatch the movie or vice versa. It's kind of fun. So it'd be a fun
kind of like it's that guy.
Right. Oh, I didn't realize he was in that. Or you go back afterwards and you rewatch that old film. You're like, wait a second, he was in this movie the whole time and I had no idea for years.
Right.
So it's kind of fun. I think this will be a fun topic for us tonight.
Oh, wow. Yep. Yeah, that's actually now just sparking up a whole bunch of, with your description, it just sparked up a whole bunch of actors in my head.
Yeah, because it happens a lot. I mean, it happens now with streaming services too, you have more access to TV shows and movies that probably a lot of us haven't watched maybe in decades. And going back and rewatching, I'm like, oh my gosh, I think that's a young so-and-so in that role. And you'll look on IMDb and sure enough it is. So it's kind of fun. So if you haven't had a chance, there's a lot of old shows that have been finally released online for the first time ever. So go check some stuff out. You never know who you might find digging through the past.
Shoot, there's a lot of shows now that you can just go onto YouTube and you'll find the entire series on YouTube anymore. Yeah. And it's all free.
Yeah, either way. So
because a lot of these studios sometimes just don't care.
They don't.
They're not going to pull it down. They don't care.
Right, so go check it out. It'd be fun to dig through the past.
But make sure you check out our YouTube first. Am I right, guys?
Right. Check out all the videos. Would be nice. Yes.
Imagine you're listening and you're like, I wonder who they're going to talk about. And all they're talking about is themselves. It's insane.
Very nice.
We're talking about our start.
Nice.
I'll start.
Well, let's start off with some uncredited roles because during my research, I wasn't able to find as many uncredited as I thought I would. I was mostly finding other stuff, starring roles. Did any of you happen to find anybody that
So
was
wait, Prague,
just
did I get this
credited?
right? You actually did some research for this episode?
Strange, I
Oh.
know. It's
Hold on.
Good
rare,
episode then.
but I thought
Didn't
I should probably be
feel-
professional for once.
Yeah, I mean, it took 67 episodes. Well,
It took a while.
I've got my notebook with my doodles and
doodle
notes. So
sketches,
yes,
those were good notes.
my sketches.
That's how he takes notes. Imagery.
But I've
Is
got
that a
notes.
banana?
That's a banana, and he's pointing
Always
at you,
bananas on the
friends.
line.
All right. Some bulging.
So,
eyes on
anyways,
that banana.
let's get back on topic.
Okay.
So, who wants
Back
to
on
start
topic.
first?
Well, I know Trevor was looking into some actors that were uncredited. And by uncredited, for those listening, we're talking about people who, when you look at the credits, they don't actually have their name at all. It's usually just like, boy number one or mop kid or whatever, right?
yeah.
It's not like
Yeah.
somebody that you know who they are. So, did you have anybody, Trevor?
Brad Pitt probably has the best examples just
Whoa,
because.
Brad Pitt, like the biggest star.
Whoa.
Yeah, Brad Pitt is
Okay.
one
Of
of
the
the
90s,
most
hold on.
well-known
Hey,
stars right now.
okay, all right. Maybe not anymore. I'm
I don't
showing
know.
my age.
People know who Brad Pitt is,
Yeah,
even if they don't like him.
But anyways,
And so
what do you
his
say?
very first movie was called Hunk, which I guess
Hunk.
that's
Fits well.
apropos for him. But it turns out the movie's about a guy who signs a deal with the devil to transform his body and become a hunk. He's like a nerdy guy or whatever.
Okay.
And so,
Oh my God, it sounds just like Meet Joe Black.
yeah, Brad Pitt's
Strange
actually
enough,
not credited at all. His role is guy at beach with drink.
Well, and that's funny that you actually, through your research, you found that, because I feel like through the years, I always heard that Brad Pitt's first role was from Thelma and Louise. So
That's
it's
when he got his. So a lot of research was the distinction between their very first role versus the role that got like their big break,
Right.
so that's Thelma and Louise is when he actually got his big break.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, because there's a lot of that. I found a lot of that kind of information online. Was like, their first like starring role, or their first role that they're known for, is a little bit harder to find a role that they really don't have any credit for, like a walk-on part or an extra in the background. Those are the ones that are harder to trace back because they're not always credited for that.
Yeah,
Right.
like Brad Pitt, he was doing a lot. The 1987 was Hunk, and then in 1988, No Way Out came out. And it's a
Okay.
political thriller with Kevin Costner and Gene Hackman, who in 1987 would be really big names. And he was just
Right.
black tie party guest.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
It's just an extra.
It was just the pretty face in the background.
Yeah, and then he's a waiter in No Man's Land in 1989. And then
Okay.
he's a party goer, preppy guy at Fight in Less Than Zero, also in 1989. It took until 1990
Jeez.
for him to get a name, to actually be a named character. He was known as Rick in this super indie movie that was called The Dark Side of the Sun, where it was his first leading role. He plays a young scientist who's in search of a cure for a dreaded skin disease. And this movie is like a budget of like $10.
Wow.
I gotta
It's
look
like
up this
some
film now.
Student fan-made movie from Yugoslavia.
Oh, that's
Hey, you
great.
guys
Sounds like
heard
something
somewhere, I
Moira
guess.
Rose would be a part of from.
Well, it's so funny because every time I think of like Brad Pitt, I always put like Tom Cruise kind of in the same realm, because I feel like they were always kind of like they came up around the same time
Right.
and they were kind of popular around the same time. I mean, obviously Tom Cruise, I feel like kind of soared off, but even Tom Cruise doesn't even have uncredited roles. Every one of his roles were like, I mean, even his first role, he had a named character. And I was kind of surprised of how many uncredited roles Brad Pitt had.
Mhm.
Like, now, did Brad Pitt, I didn't even check his IMDb or anything like that, but was he doing like TV and stuff before he even did movies?
Not really.
Yeah,
He
Not
did
really?
TV
Okay.
at the same time. Once like the early 90s, he's doing TV at the same time, but he didn't do it before those unnamed roles in the late 80s.
Gotcha. Yeah, and what I found from like Tom Cruise is it is all movies. I mean, I don't think he even touched TV like almost at all. It's crazy to me. But anyways, that Tom Cruise is, I don't know why I always had that distinction. Ever since I was a little kid, I always felt like they were still on the same pedestal.
Oh, they were kind of like, you always pitted them against each other, right, in your head.
Right. And
Because
then
it's like,
whenever they
okay,
did an
box
interview with a
office
vampire
used to
together.
care
Right.
about leading actors and stuff. Yeah.
right, that they were
Right.
the two biggest stars back then, so that
Yeah.
makes sense.
And then doing, like I said, doing interview with a vampire was like, oh my
I was
God.
like, oh, the world's colliding. Right?
Yeah, exactly. These two kind of up and coming titans in a way are now in the same movie together, which, by the way, if you've never seen Interview with a Vampire, please pause this, go watch it because it's fantastic.
I may or may not have had a poster on my wall.
Oh, it's so good.
It's a great movie, yeah. Anyway.
But like, so let's jump back into the uncredited roles and stuff like that. I found a couple uncredited roles that I found very fascinating.
Mhm.
I don't know how you guys feel about Forrest Gump, but it's one of my favorite movies.
It's a fun movie, yeah.
Oh, it's great. It's wonderful. Everything about it is very cool and awesome. I had no idea Kurt Russell was in Forrest Gump. He played
Hold on.
Elvis.
He played Elvis?
That would make sense, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't remember him playing. I do remember this now.
So
I think I
here's
saw
the
a video
weird part
about that.
about it.
Yeah, okay.
When you're watching the movie, they never show Elvis like in focus. He's always out of focus.
Yeah, that's right.
In the whole movie. So, I mean, they could have put anybody in there, but the fact that they had Kurt Russell playing, and he was uncredited.
Yeah.
That was cool.
I think it's because like he can do the impersonation so well. Like he was kind of known for that at the time. And that's why they put him in the role, if I remember correctly.
He ended up playing Elvis later on, I believe. Was it later on or was it before that? I don't remember. Oh, I should have looked that up before.
No, that's kind of a fun one, because it's really like in the middle of his career. That wasn't like one that happened early on.
Yeah.
It's unique. I like it.
Well, and that's why I like these uncredited roles. Some of these uncredited roles that I found were, these are already big known people. Why wouldn't they want themselves be credited?
Yeah, maybe it was just some kind of one-offs, thank
For
you
sure.
or something.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like and this one that I found was, I think everybody knows this one from the movie Hook. Glenn Close was in the movie Hook, and she was a unnamed pirate. I think they called him like Wimpy Pirate or something like that.
Right,
but Glenn Close,
beard and everything. Yeah,
beard. Plays and dude kills it.
Fun. Yeah.
Actually has a speaking role, but totally uncredited.
Yeah.
Nobody knew who it was. I feel like for years. It's pretty.
You kind of almost wonder, like, do you think that she went into makeup and went onto set and didn't tell anybody?
Oh, she had to have told somebody, because how would she have gotten a speaking role?
No, I'm not talking about the crew. I'm talking about, like, say, like other cast members or extras on set. Like, she just walks onto set and no one knows she's Glenn Close. They all think, oh, it's just some extra that they brought in to play this part.
The makeup's great. You could never tell that it was Glenn Close.
That'd be kind of fun. I would wonder about that backstory. Yeah, I'll
but
rewatch
that was more of uncredited actors well in their careers. But if we wanted to go back to uncredited, we were even mentioning commercials.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many actors that got their upcomings in commercials and stuff. One of the ones that sticks out vividly in my mind, I think because of social media and people sharing these videos, is Super Nintendo had Paul Rudd, Ant-Man himself. Mm-hmm. I love you, man. Paul Rudd. He was just a kid playing a Super Nintendo on a giant 3-story high TV screen.
Like the Wizard. Yeah.
Oh, it was fantastic, man. It's so cool seeing, but he looks exactly the same, so it's not like
he hasn't aged.
He hasn't aged at all.
No, he doesn't age. I don't know what's up with him. He's just a Canadian thing in him. I don't know what they have up there, some special water or something.
But did you guys have any other actors in commercials and whatnot?
What about you, Josh?
Mine's not commercials, but somebody with an uncredited role would be Heath Ledger. It's kind of interesting with this one. He was in his first uncredited, or it's kind of his first film. He was uncredited. It was called Clowning Around. And he played an orphan
interesting.
clown.
Clowning Around.
Irony.
Oh my God.
And he was an orphan clown. An orphan clown. So it kind of fits with a Joker, where Joker, technically, I guess you could consider him an orphan. He doesn't claim actual identity to anything. So
Wow.
So it's
Dude,
kind
that
of
is
You just blew my mind, Josh.
seriously, we did not discuss this at all beforehand, and Josh is seriously like,
We
what?
discussed nothing beforehand, sir. What are you talking about? There's no prep that goes into this. But no, he did not. So that was an interesting surprise.
But
That's
yeah,
a great...
this was his first small role. I mean, for him, he left school early to go pursue acting, and this was his first thing. But
Unreal.
Then,
And that was back in 1992.
me too. Yeah.
And that was before he even did TV. Like, he's obviously got a lot of TV credits, but he just came right out and was Orphan Clown.
I always thought like one of his first roles was that Night movie.
The night.
The one where he played the Night. It was kind of a comedy, if I remember correctly. Knight's Tale, I think it was called.
Knight's Tale.
Oh, Knight's Tale. No.
I always thought that was his
was
first role.
No.
I don't know.
No, dude.
No.
That was
Well, his biggest like breakout was 10 Things I Hate
10
About
Things
You.
I Hate
Right.
About You, for sure.
And that was
I could've
before Knight's Tale.
sworn. Was it
But
really?
even 10 Things I Hate About You, I mean, he did only like 3 TV series and two other movies. And then it was like, boom, now he's a star with 10 Things I Hate
After
About
that,
You.
he started rolling with different things, you know, The Patriot, Knight's Tale.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Then he was in
Big
The Patriot.
stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
He was the son.
Yep.
Forgot about that.
my goodness.
Wow, what a career that guy had. Short career, but a great career.
Yeah, he was
Unreal, yeah.
such a great actor.
All right. Good one.
So I could do another one.
Yeah.
So another one I have is John Krasinski.
Oh, yeah.
So for him, his first role was what is it? Oh, right here, the Estate and Maine. He was the judge's assistant. It was an uncredited role back in 2000. So this was his first.
Back in 2000, wow.
Judges
See,
assistant.
and I
love
feel
that.
like we've had him around for so long now that it's kind of crazy to think that first it's crazy to think 2000 was 20 years ago.
Oh, gosh.
But
we keep doing this to us.
I know. Wow. I don't know why, man. It's wild.
Y2K all over again. Oh, God.
Oh God.
But yeah, State and Maine. That was the movie?
That was the movie that he was in.
Okay.
He just plays the judge's assistant through that, which is an uncredited role for him. But then, you know, like you said, he jumped around different TV series here and there. It's just small parts. Then eventually he landed the role in 2005 for Jim in The Office. And then ever since then, it's, you know, for him, it's been...
Now he's a director and producer and all sorts of crazy things.
And he almost got passed up for The Office, too.
Mm-hmm.
It came way too close, yeah. But I guess he had the chemistry with Jenna Fisher.
That works.
Yeah.
Nice.
How about you,
I like this.
Trevor? Would you got any for us? Uncredited stuff?
Well, how about Prague?
Yeah, what about me?
I already gave one, so let's
All
have
right.
Prague.
I actually just came across another one that I think
more.
I
Sir,
think Prague
you're
will
cut
really.
off.
No, this one's for you, Prague. But I'm gonna let you go first.
All right. So one that actually surprised me. I wasn't gonna start off with this one originally, but when I found out that this was this actor's true first role, it surprised me because I'm like, there's no way he's had to have other roles in something, even uncredited. But Alan Rickman as Hans Gruber in Die Hard is his very first appearance on film.
That's not uncredited.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I
But it's
thought
his
he
first
would.
role.
I looked for it. That's it. That's his first role.
Oh my
Period.
God! What?
He goes right into being Hans Gruber.
Like
he
that.
had to have done stage work before.
Right. So he was a big time
He was
actor
groomed
in
for it.
London, from the London stage presence. So he
That
was
is
there, but
wild.
Nothing here. Nothing on
He's
TV.
like the LeBron James of acting.
Right. He just came in there and killed it right off the bat. One of the
Straight out of
greatest
high school.
villains. Straight
He
out
came
of
straight
London.
out of high school, right? Yeah. That's insane. That's actually a pretty great story.
Well, to come out and play one of the best villains of all time, I mean, it's iconic. So that's pretty great.
Yeah.
Pretty great.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Oh, and he had one hell of a career too.
Yeah, a lot of great roles. He chews up scenery in everything he does. So.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Hans Gruber.
Galaxy Quest, dude,
Right?
doesn't
Yep.
get much better than that. Love
Does
Galaxy
not.
Quest.
So good.
So here's one for you,
okay.
Prague. Because I know you love this movie,
Okay.
Mac and Me.
Ooh.
So okay, in Mac and Me,
Yes.
There is a dancer in McDonald's.
Oh, that's my favorite scene of all time in the history of film.
Is it
the
really?
Dance scene. Yes, the dance scene in McDonald's is it, man.
Do you know who the uncredited girl dancer is in there?
I feel like I would know this, but I don't. Because I remember hearing about it like maybe years past, and I don't think I'm going to get it right now. I think there's a few people in that scene.
I'm sure.
Who's the one that you're
the one that I looked up?
Yeah.
Jennifer Aniston.
Maybe this is the one I'm thinking of.
Isn't that wild?
Easy. And that's her. Was that her first role, or is that just happening?
That's literally like the first thing on here is Mac and Me.
Wow.
Crazy.
Yeah. Is that wild? Oh, but now that makes me think of another role, Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage was in one of my top favorite movies, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. But all he was in a quick scene, in and out, just he was a burger flipper in the background.
Okay.
Yeah. Uncredited. I don't even know if he was even
him and Judge Reinhold.
Flipping
burgers.
BFFs.
Nice. That's a good movie.
Well, that was fun.
I mean, speaking of working at fast foods, Matt Damon's first movie was Mystic Pizza, where in 1988 he just plays Steamer. So the movie is a coming-of-age late 80s movie with two sisters and a friend that start working at a pizza factory.
Wasn't Jennifer
Julia
Aniston
Roberts
in
is?
Or it's Julia Roberts.
Yeah, Julia Roberts is one of the sisters, and he's just Steamer in the background.
That's it.
Working on pizza.
Yeah. So technically, they just gave him a name. I mean, if he's not really,
Matt Damon's career after that, his next two movies were The Good Mother and Field of Dreams, and he's just listed as extra. He doesn't even get a name as Steamer.
He's just
an extra in the background.
Probably at the ballpark or something. Who knows?
I'm not gonna lie. A lot of this is blowing my mind.
It's crazy. I mean,
it's crazy.
The first movie that Matt Damon ever was actually given a character name, he was Charlie Dillon in a movie called School Ties, which stars Brendan Fraser as a Jewish teenager who gets a scholarship to a prep school. So his first credited movie is some Brendan Fraser movie from 1992.
Interesting. Bring back Brendan Fraser, by the way.
We already did this. You already did the whole bring back Brendan Fraser.
I don't care. You know what? I might make it a weekly thing now because you said that.
Fine.
I'm gonna say bring back Brendan Fraser.
I got called out because he's in Doom Patrol and nobody knows what Doom Patrol is. And so it doesn't count. I don't even care. He's not back if he's on a show that nobody knows.
That's true. Nobody watches that show. Exactly. Which is on HBO Max, by the way, just FYI.
Oh, it is?
I don't know what you're referencing.
HBO Max has all the
I don't know what that is.
CW
we certainly
shows.
haven't talked about it before.
No, we have not.
Lost episode?
Anyways, wink.
Anyways, where do we move from here, people?
Well, we can talk about some more actors then. We'll let you guys talk some more. Unless you want me to go with another one.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. I'm sorry. I've got one more uncredited.
Oh, shoot. Of course.
Just one more. I'm sorry.
Shoot. You're not running out of time. We got a whole podcast. You don't have to fire them off really quick.
Okay, and then there was this guy.
But Cuba Gooding Jr., he is one of his, and this wasn't even his first credit. He was just thrown in this movie.
Show me the money.
I think he was like, what?
Show me the money.
No.
Show me the money.
Definitely was credited in that movie. I hope so, at least.
I remember that Conan where Tom Cruise said, show me the money. That's your Comic-Con.
That was funny.
He was in Coming to America. Everybody loves Coming to America.
He was in that
but
movie?
All he was, his credit is boy getting a haircut.
Oh.
He was in the haircut scene.
All right.
Yep.
I need that role.
That.
Oh, seriously.
I really need that role.
Right now, yeah, I think we all do.
Dang.
Anybody made a quarantine movie where they do haircuts?
That's all they do is like, oh, yes.
Give me a call.
That's all they do. That's interesting. I didn't realize he was in that movie.
Well, and that's the funny thing is a lot of these characters like that don't speak or anything, and you just see them there, and you're going, that face looks really familiar.
Oh, sure.
Like where have I seen that? Like, this might be a little bit of a tangent, but like Tom Cruise when he was in Tropic Thunder, I was watching him in Tropic Thunder thinking, I know that face. Where do I know that face? I mean, it was Tom Cruise, but whatever.
Anyways, heavy makeup and body.
Well, that's like that
stuff.
secret reference that Daniel Craig is the stormtrooper in Force Awakens who gets confused by Rey.
Like he's under everything, and you never know it could be him. It could be anybody.
But that's the funny thing is, a lot of people, a lot of actors, all they want to be is in a Star Wars movie. So they'll be Stormtrooper number 16 just to be in a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. I mean, I'm sure there's a whole another website to that type of stuff.
All that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. This is not a Star Wars podcast.
No, it is not.
That's on our Patreon.
That is Patreon Star Wars. I wanted to talk about another kind of big name actor nowadays that starting kind of a lot of things. Like I didn't realize I had ideas of what this guy's first role was, and I think it was the same that Alex was talking about. And it's Leonardo DiCaprio. It's a hard word to say.
Leonardo. Yes, Leonardo
DiCaprio. I don't know what his first role is, because we were talking before the show, and I thought his first credited role was on the TV show Parenthood, not the new version, but the original version that aired right after the movie.
You mean not alongside with Dak Shepard?
No, not that one. Before the Dak Shepard.
And Craig T. Nelson?
And not the Craig T. Nelson one. You're just going to name off all the actors on the show.
No, I only know 2 of them.
Oh, okay. Anyways, he was credited on that show, and I'm thinking, I remember seeing him on Growing Pains when I was a kid.
That's my first time seeing him.
I know that you have talked about that. So I'm like, I thought that was his first one. Now we're thinking it wasn't that, because you were finding other stuff out about Leonardo DiCaprio, that he had other roles even before then. I know he did appearances on Roseanne, but I don't know if those were credited or not.
So a lot of his stuff was, he had a lot of uncredited roles on TV series, like as Child or Freddy's Model, Bubble Yum Model, stuff like that. Kid Fighting Scout, silly stuff.
Right.
But like for movie wise, I think his first one was, but he's credited as Josh in Critters 3.
What year was that though?
Oh, 1991.
Okay, so 1990 would have been before then. So his first credited role would have been on Parenthood, that TV series.
Yes.
So that's cool. At least I was able to find that.
It's a tough distinction between TV and film too, and you're right.
It's like which one comes first.
But that's the thing is, back in the 80s and 90s, movies were more. It was held to a higher standard than TV. TV was like, we don't do
entertainment,
TV.
Whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but now more people want to do TV shows than they do. You've got these mega stars like Nicole Kidman and everybody except for Tom Cruise is doing TV.
Except for Tom Cruise. Well, I just wanted to circle back real quick though. With speaking of like Parenthood, right? It's been in TV form and movie form. Been in TV form twice, and of course you're getting some bigger names in the future one. But in the original movie Parenthood, Keanu Reeves was in that film, which I did not realize until I went back and rewatched it like a couple years ago. I'm like, oh my God, that's Keanu Reeves in Parenthood. I don't know if that was his first movie, but that was the storyline, that he was like, I don't know if I can.
Let's all start doing Keanu Reeves. All right, like what's the next? You know what? That's such a.
Do I call it a nappy or do I call it a diaper? Like,
it's such a played out accent for him. He's moved so past that.
Oh, but that's back when I liked Keanu better personally. But that's just
really you don't like him now as much.
I like him being goofy. It's fine. I don't know. Right.
He's about to become the goofy Keanu all over again with Bill and Ted 3.
Yeah, but it's not the same. When actors are younger, they can play goofy better, in my opinion.
Tell that to John Hamm, okay? Tell that to John Hamm.
Touche. I do like him on Wet Hot American Summer, so you're right.
Oh my God. Dude, that's a Trevor. That's a treasure trove of goodness.
Yeah. Well, and of actors that you probably were like, oh, I didn't know idea they were in that, or, even got started in that too. Anyways, we'll talk about that later. But I thought that was a fun connection for the Parenthood thing. So rewatch Parenthood.
Wait, Parenthood is
that's a whole other topic.
Anyone should look up.
Oh my! I meant Parenthood.
Well, that's fun. Well, and
Oh,
so
man.
I'm gonna jump to the next one. This was kind of fun for me because Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp is kind of one of those interesting guys. He's a character just in general, but he actually started off in a movie, then went to a bunch of TV stuff, and then came back into movies. But his first role, I mean, he had a credit in it. His name was Glenn Lance. But it was in Nightmare on Elm Street, and he got just totally I'm pretty sure he was the murder where he was pulled into his bed, and then the just fountain of blood hits the ceiling of the room.
And apparently, I think he was injured during that scene too, or something happened when he got
It's just
pulled
funny that I find it through the research. I found that a lot of actors kind of got their start in
slasher
not
movies.
all of them, but
yeah,
a lot of them get their start in horror movies.
Well, because they're fairly cheap and easy to make, and you can like, oh, I'm Joe Nobody, just put
and
me
they
in your
need
horror
nobodies
movie. Right,
in
they
horror
do.
movies to kill. You can't kill the
A
stars.
celebrity, right?
Stars.
Unless you're Drew Barrymore and Scream.
Oh my god! I
Well, that was
remember
the
that
point,
was a
though.
huge
Yeah.
deal.
Well, yeah,
That
that
was
was
a
the whole
huge-
point of it.
Yeah. Oh
Talk
no!
about Drew Barrymore's first role.
Right.
Oh my god! Oh.
Now, is that her first credited role in ET, or is it something else? Or is it
She probably
Firestarter?
has an earlier credited role just
I
because
think.
threw her and everything.
Yeah, I think
She's just there on
Firestarter
set and
might
stuff.
have been her first role. I don't know. I have to look that up. But anyways. Oh, thank you for the ASMR. The keyboard ASMR is my favorite.
Well, one that I wanted to focus on because you talked
Research
about
harder. Yeah. Go ahead.
actors who are focusing on TV. Amy Adams, she's amazing in Sharp Objects. If you haven't watched it on HBO, it's 7 episodes. Watch it. And anyway, she has a really interesting career because a lot of these people that we've talked about started out relatively young, and she doesn't have the same career path as everyone else. Like, she took a while to get her started. Now she's in all kinds of stuff. But her very first movie was Drop Dead Gorgeous, which includes Kirsten Dunst, Brittany Murphy, Allison Janney, Denise Richards, Kirstie Alley, and she's on screen for like 1 minute. And think of how Amy Adams' career is today versus all of those people.
Was she credited in that role?
Yeah, she's officially Leslie Miller.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow. I thought. Well, maybe it came after that. Then that one where she was the princess.
Oh, Enchanted or
Yeah,
something?
Enchanted.
Oh, yeah.
So her career, essentially, Drop Dead Gorgeous came out in 1999, and then she was in Psycho Beach Party in 2000. And then she
Another horror movie.
couldn't really get a
actually.
role for a while. And she would try a TV show, and she quit after a few episodes, and she almost gave up acting. She went back to acting school. And then that's when she got into Enchanted.
Wait, was she the main character in that movie? Enchanted.
Yeah.
Sorry, not Enchanted. Psycho Beach Party.
Nope, that's just a small role too. Her name is Marvel Ann.
Because it's been a while since I've seen that movie, and I can totally see her in that movie.
And it's really, I mean, her career is so interesting that her first performance was that she worked at a dinner theater in a production of Chorus Line where she would have to wait tables and then go up on stage and perform in a little tiny dinner theater in Boulder, Colorado back in 1994. And she ended up getting fired because her coworker went and reported her to the boss for various lies. Imagine if you were that coworker and you worked with Amy Adams back in 1994 and you got her fired.
How do you feel now?
And she's still waitressing over there.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
That was her punishment.
I'm the manager now. Yeah,
Oh,
I
she's a
remember
manager. There you go.
Amy Adams.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm actually the one who got her start.
I like how she's apparently a smoker.
Yeah,
I've been smoking for many years. Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. Yeah. Anyway. Anyway.
Well, I wanted to jump into a fun one. This one's for the ladies.
Okay.
Mr. Ryan Gosling.
Ooh.
This is actually kind of fun because so he did get his start in TV and whatnot. Obviously, like most people, but his start was in shows that just so much fun. Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps? Oh my
man,
God.
I love that.
Background. He was a little kid back in 1995 on Are You Afraid of the Dark, telling this. It was the tale of Station 109.1.
Right.
I don't know really what that one's about, but you know what? He was in it. And then
Love me some Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Oh, dude,
yeah.
I weren't they talking about bringing it back?
Yeah, they
Yeah,
were.
they
I
are.
don't know what happened to that.
Yeah,
They might
I would
still. We
love
never
for
know.
that to come. I hope
Hollywood's
so.
back open
That'd
as
be
of
great.
today, so we're good to go.
As
might
of
get
this
it.
recording.
I think it's June 12th, but
I'm just kidding. I don't know idea when it's coming. I saw the news today. I made that up.
Anyways, well, it's kind of so. One of the reasons why I brought this up is because in the
Oh, it's on this side.
Goosebumps,
Here he is.
yes, you're touching Ryan Gosling in your background. If you're watching on YouTube, that is.
I'm loving his face.
This is great for podcast.
It is. It is.
In Goosebumps, the only reason why I wanted to bring up the Goosebumps one is because he was in
That's
the
the
episode.
one that I know of. Is that one? I didn't realize he was in anything else before that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
this is news to me. Okay.
Well, he did Goosebumps a year after he did Are You Afraid of the Dark? But the reason why I brought up Goosebumps is because he was in the episode Say Cheese and Die. And that was, I think I read 2 Goosebumps books. And that was one of them.
Okay.
And that's the only, that was interesting to me, that he was actually in that one. So
Say Cheese and Die Again. It's a good sequel book.
yeah. But if we were going to talk about his first credited role on a movie was 1996, Frankenstein and Me, where I believe his co-star was Burt Reynolds.
Burt Reynolds.
That would be fun, having Burt Reynolds as your co-star for your first movie.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyways.
The movie I remember him first was Remember the Titans.
Oh, yeah.
I have not seen that movie in so long. I wouldn't
my
remember him being in that.
Okay. I thought you were saying you had not seen.
No,
that
Prog's
movie.
seen every movie ever made.
Some of them
That's
too many
just like
times, unfortunately.
It's just like that thing. I was listening to another podcast and the guy said I'd never seen The Matrix. I was like, how am I supposed to respect your opinion on anything if you've never seen The
You
Matrix?
should just like kneel him. Dodge him.
Well, Neo, what?
I have a big name that has an interesting story too.
Oh yeah?
And so George Clooney, a lot of people think that his first movie was Return of the Killer Tomatoes, but it turns out his first movie was actually Return to Horror High, which has a similar horror return aspect to it. But that movie, he got credited Oliver. He never had an uncredited role. And at the same time he's trying to be in movies, he's on ER and doing all the TV stuff. But before he gets there, he's in Grizzly 2, The Predator. And Grizzly 2 never actually came out.
Oh, okay.
So it's one of his first roles. It stars a big 18-foot, 2,000-pound grizzly bear, and it's obviously a sequel. It's Grizzly 2. But it turns out that before the special effects, they had to, before the special effects finished it, the whole bear and making him look like an actual bear that's doing stuff, the executive producer disappeared with all the funds, and some say he was jailed during the time of the filming. So the movie never got finished. They tried to release it in 2011 and then in 2019 with the footage they had, because this movie also was the first appearance of Laura Dern and Charlie Sheen.
What?
Oh my God. Wow.
What a
Grizzly
world.
2.
What year is this again?
1988.
I would have thought it would have been earlier than that. Okay. Wait,
Unreal.
Laura Dern. Oh, so this wasn't necessarily Laura Dern's first movie. She just happened to be in it.
Yeah.
Okay. I was confused. I'm like, I'm trying to remember when Blue Velvet came out. I'm pretty
No,
sure
it's George Clooney's first role, but
Okay.
Laura Dern and Charlie Sheen, it's his first role too.
Okay. Wow. What a movie. What a movie that wasn't made.
Yeah, it never came out. And they have that because they used a real bear.
Oh, well,
And so they
there
have
you
like
go.
this bear attacks like this pool party, and he's just like a real bear. He doesn't really go and attack anyone. And they have to put in the whole CGI
effects,
or
right,
whatever
right.
alternative they had in 1988.
Some like cardboard cutout thing that comes on screen all haphazardly. Oh
I want to see this movie.
no! Oh, that'd be fantastic. That was a good one.
That'd be a Candygram.
Yeah.
Never mind. That's an old folk joke right there.
Oh, Candygrams.
Candygram with the shark. Josh, what do you got for us, bud?
So one that I have is Dave Chappelle. For me, this what I had is in 1981. It was his first film that he was in, which was
81.
the end of August. He played a kid on the beach. It's an uncredited role.
Nice.
So
you said 1981, right?
Walking on the beach.
Wow.
So he was just walking on the beach. I mean, I wish I knew more about the film other than that he did that. So
okay.
But I mean, he went on after that. I mean, he did the Death Comedy Jam tour.
Right.
So he was on there a couple of times. The TV series back in was in the early 90s. It was 92, 93.
That's why I'm surprised 81 was his first appearance.
Yeah, because his first main role was in Robin Hood, Men in Tights.
Men in Tights that he did
Blinken.
that before Half Baked?
Yeah, that was before Half Baked. Half Baked didn't happen until, was it 98?
Yeah. I about to say, I remember that was my senior year in high school. And I was like, yep, we all went out and saw that movie.
This is fun. People are going to be listening to this going, oh, so we're just going to read IMDb tonight. Cool. Let's do this.
It's about the storytelling to go with it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
No,
I
I
mean,
know. We're having
but I mean,
fun.
you look at Dave Chappelle now. I brought him up because I was watching some YouTube clips on him off his stand-up, and then hearing his story about how after the Chappelle show, he just took a break. He just went away for a long time because he got tired of doing what other people want him to do. And
Yeah,
so
he kind of lost his mind a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, until recently, within a year or so, he has his own series or his stand-up series on Netflix.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Which
he's kind of reemerging.
controversial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything he does
look
is controversial. I love it.
Just look up the controversies.
No, he's a great character and a great guy. I just didn't realize he had started out so early. That was pretty good
Yeah,
find.
and this as a kid, so
Nice.
you know, I've always enjoyed the Chappelle Show and
Oh, yeah.
Half Baked and his
Great
Oh,
movie.
my
That was not.
I need to go
Half-Baked when I
back
saw
and
that
rewatch
movie.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
I
should
need
rewatch
to
it. There
go
you go.
back and rewatch that.
That was good. Wasn't who was in there? Was that God, what's his name? The John. Forget it. I'm old. I do.
Love coming up with names on references to
Yeah.
podcasts. He knows
Too many
John.
movies. Man, John. There's a lot of Johns out there.
Jacob
Oh,
Jingleheimer
no.
Schmidt. His name is my name too.
Whenever we
finished.
go out.
Oh, you're gonna finish it? Come on.
Yeah,
man.
it's
Let's-
okay. Anyway, let's move on then to other
Yes,
other
please.
roles. But no, to your point about like not just going to IMDb, but I think this is a good opportunity for people to like go back and watch those movies. And be like, I didn't realize that person was in there. Let me go watch that movie again. I can go see if I can spot, that person as a young beach dweller or whatever they happen to be.
Oh, and that's what makes it fun is
Right.
whenever you do find out some of this stuff that you never even knew. Like the Glenn Close being a part of Hook.
Yeah.
That to me was like I had to go back and rewatch Hook just to see that scene.
Right.
I mean, I guess nowadays you could just go on to YouTube and look that stuff up. But
Look the scene up, but it's always a
Right.
good excuse too to watch Macamee again. I can always use an excuse to watch that movie again.
I think it's probably been about 30 years since I've watched that movie.
Never mind. I won't let you make you have to watch that movie. But I wanted to mention kind of a few others that kind of surprised me. I always thought that Jim Carrey started off on TV, not film. But apparently he was in Earth Girls Are Easy, which was a fun little film.
With Jeff Goldblum.
Yes. And that I had no idea he was in that. He was like some red alien creature
Oh,
from that movie.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, I'm like,
That
okay.
movie starts off so bizarre.
Oh, it's a bizarre movie. I've only seen it the one time when I was like a kid, and I don't remember anything from it really, other than I think Gina Davis was in it, and
Oh, Gina Davis.
I had a crush on her back then. So I was like, I remember that. That was
didn't?
about it. So yeah, that's all I remember. But he was in it. He was an alien in that movie,
Which
so
is
go check that
cool.
out.
Until they shave off all the orange hair that he
Right.
had, and yeah.
But you can tell it totally makes sense. I'm like, oh yeah, that guy was kind of crazy like him. He had those weird eyes that he makes. It's like, oh. Okay,
Well, and he did a
makes sense.
movie Rubber Face, which totally makes sense as well, because that guy
Mask,
he
yeah.
can. No, not The Mask. He
No,
did
I'm saying
do the
he did the
mask,
mask, which
The
so it
Mask.
makes sense.
right?
That he was
But no, he did a movie called Rubber Face.
right.
Yeah,
Cool.
I don't know
Yeah.
if he was the lead in that one though. Anyways, well, so a little bit of like hidden gems that I like to look for is like, for instance, Benicio del Toro. I would have never guessed that he was in this movie that I'm about to name because it was his first movie credit. Big Top Pee-wee. Not a well-known Pee-wee movie. I personally really like it. I think I actually saw Big Top Pee-wee. Yeah, it was a Pee Wee Herman movie.
It was the follow-up to Pee Wee's Big Adventure.
Follow-up is better than sequel for sure because
it was not the same director or anybody else involved. So,
but for me, I think I saw Big Top Pee Wee way more than I saw Pee Wee's Big Adventure. So, and I would have never guessed that was Benicio del Toro. But then again, I was also like 10. So, right. But he was Duke the dog-faced boy. That was his credit in that movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, he had done TV. He was in like Miami Vice and stuff. But Big Top Pee Wee, man, good for that. Hey, go rewatch Big Top Pee Wee. Go find Dog-Faced Boy.
There you go. try to get through that movie like I tried to.
I wouldn't mind going back to rewatching that movie and seeing if it was as good as I remember it in my head. I'm sure it gets totally ruined, but whatever.
Yeah, I love Pee Wee to death, so it helps. But yeah, it's a tough watch.
Except for that new Netflix show.
Oh yeah, I won't watch that.
That was
I tried. No.
Hard watch. Hard watch.
There's like 100 of them.
Yeah.
Now there is.
Right.
But no, like the first series that he came out with, it was a real tough watch.
It was. Anyways. Anybody else got anything?
I have a fun twofer where these characters are kind of connected.
I like it.
Yeah. So Michael B. Jordan, his first role was on a Toys R Us commercial. He was a child model. And then his actual first movie credited role, he was teen number 2 in the movie Black and White that came out in 1999. It starred Robert Downey Jr., Jared Leto, Brooke Shields, Mike Tyson makes an appearance as himself. Wow. And he's just teen number 2.
Wow. And if you really want to connect all of this, I believe right before he got really big, he was a starring role on Parenthood with Dak Shepard. So
nice.
Just to bring it all full circle. And they just wrote him off the show because he became like super popular all of a sudden. So he just left.
Well, speaking of writing off the show, I mean, Michael B. Jordan is on The Wire. That's probably where he got his most biggest start as being a child actor. He played Wallace. He was only on season 1. I won't spoil it, but there's a reason he's only on season 1. He was also on one episode of The Sopranos. But then it turns out in 2003, he was on the soap All My Children. He replaced Chadwick Boseman of the role Reggie Porter. So Chadwick Boseman and Michael B. Jordan have been connected since 2003, not just as soon as Black Panther.
Wow. Well, there you go. All the way back then.
And then to make it
maybe that's why he was the villain. He was the villain. He took his part. He took his role, just like in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like in the movie. To take it a step further, that All My Children role where he is Reggie Porter, that's Chadwick Boseman's first professional acting credit.
Wow.
He was only on episodes from January 2nd to January 14th of that year. And he got recast with Michael B. Jordan for unknown reasons. And then that was 2003. Chadwick Boseman isn't in anything else until 2008.
That's crazy. Wow. And I didn't think about soap operas. Soap operas were a start for a lot of actors.
Yeah. I mean, I know Nathan Fillion was on General Hospital.
Crazy. And the one I found out that surprised me was Morgan Freeman. He first started out in it's called Another World. I think I vaguely remember this from the 80s. But yeah, that was his first gig. Was on a soap opera called Another World. And I looked up a picture of him on the show and he looks the same age as now. So he always looked old, I guess.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Okay.
That's kind of how I feel about Samuel L. Jackson. Cause he was in Coming to America as well. And I know that we talked about, he was the robber in Coming to America.
Kind of always looks the same age.
Samuel Jackson kind of inspired this podcast because I remember an interview with him where he said his first credited role, he was janitor number 2. He's like, I wasn't even number 1 or number 3. I was just in the middle of janitor number 2. And
secondary hero.
He's a secondary hero.
Heck yeah.
That's awesome.
Samuel Jackson, our secondary hero. Nice. Aww. You're my hero.
And then just one more to kind of be the antithesis to connect this whole Black Panther idea is Lupita Nyong'o, who we're talking about these smaller roles. her first role is essentially Patsy in 12 Years a Slave from 2013. Like she rolls right into being Academy Award nominated movie actress.
Wow.
Unreal.
Huh.
Yeah.
Because previously she was in a 17-minute short film with no dialogue called East River, but I'm not really going to count that.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like the Vons Gruber thing. Like for
Hans
that
Gruber,
being,
yeah.
I like
it is.
Vons Gruber. That's
Oh,
when he
Vons
goes
Gruber,
shopping.
yes. Vons
to go
Gruber!
grocery
He has to
shopping
go to the
with
grocery store.
Vons Gruber, let's go shopping.
Vons Gruber. God, words come out really good in my mouth.
We're all doing well tonight. I love it. That was some great connections, though. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All of those.
I mean, we could literally go on and on and on about.
Yeah, if you're listening and you have ones, shoot them us emails, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, comment on YouTube.
Yeah, link.
Maybe we'll do a sequel to
video
this
of it.
episode. Who knows?
I think we should, because
Maybe.
I'm still diving into more. I'm diving into more and more and more, and there's so much that we could talk about here.
I mean, yeah, there's so many of them started off as just, like the kids who start off in extras in movies that I didn't realize until much later, like Elijah Wood, we talked about, I think even on this podcast.
Elijah
Wood's in that movie that Michael B. Jordan is, that black and white movie.
Geez, that too, huh? All right, there you go.
Oh, they all connect.
Pretty sure he was in Back to the Future too.
Yeah, that too.
But
that's why we
one
mentioned it on the
last one, just
podcast.
because I've got it up on my screen. I was either going to go Kevin Bacon or Emma Stone, but I'm like, yeah, screw it. I'm going Emma Stone on this one.
All right.
But her first big movie role was Superbad. And she had a pretty big role in that movie.
Right.
Yeah. Like for that to be your first movie role, that's pretty impressive, man. And that's the same with the 12 Years a Slave.
Right.
The fact that was her first, I mean, it's pretty wild. So
was that her very first movie though?
It was her first movie, but she was in like The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody for an episode.
Oh, The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody.
Man, we didn't even talk about Disney show people.
Disney show people.
That's another.
Oh wow, yeah.
I mean, that's a path to various types of
like who was in the Mickey Mouse Club?
Yeah, the Mickey Mouse Club.
Timberlake.
Look at everyone.
MOUSE.
We're all here.
Okay, maybe we should end this before
we get too much.
It's a rabbit hole.
It is. And I hope that everybody enjoyed this enough to where they want to go out and maybe watch some of these movies that we've listed, or even, like we said, leave a comment. We would love to do an episode 2 of this.
Part 2. Some hot shots, part 2.
Yeah.
On this.
So I think that's everything for episode 67. To everyone listening, we hope you enjoyed, and we'll talk to you next time.
Prague out.
Yeah.
I don't know where it went, man. I'm looking for it.
Oh my god, you don't even have a clickbait of a week?
I have a clickbait of the week. It's just not on my screen right now.
Sure.
Oh my god, what? I even read it to you guys earlier.
Yep. You did.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys remember what it was?
No, I can't.
It should have been about Grizzly too.
It should have been.
Should have been. Now we're all sitting here like jerk holes. People are watching us now. What's going on?
Hold on, we're almost done.
I had one, man, and it was a good one.
You need to write it in your notebook.
I will. Next time I will. You know what? And we didn't have to write too much in our notebooks today because none of us cursed. We all did a very good job.
Oh, I gotta call this 67 something else.
I can't find the one. I'm just gonna
make faces at the screen.
Don't worry, I'm just gonna end it with Josh saying "see you" at this point.
Okay. Strange coincidence tying musicians to their deaths. That's your clickbait of the week.
Jeez.
That was not your clickbait from before.
That was not